Call this meeting to order. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. I see none. Approval or amendments to the agenda. Can I see none? Be resolved that council approve the agenda of the special meeting dated May the 5th, 2022 as presented. Mover and a seconder, please. Doug and Joe. All in favor? Carried. Item 4, business. Review and adoption of the 2022 capital and operational budget. Whereas the committee of the whole meeting of May the 3rd, 2022, council reviewed 2022 capital and operational budget summary as presented, including tax levy scenarios. Whereas after review, council approved 2022 budget in the amount of $4,041,818 with a municipal tax levy increase of yes, we'll discuss the percentage later. And further, that the staff be directed to prepare the necessary bylaws. A mover and a seconder, please. Matthew and Angela. Discussion?
I'm going through it.
John, are you going to?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think for tonight's purposes, the capital budget itself has not changed since the last open meeting when it was discussed. The expenditure budget has changed by, we've added $5,000 to the supervisory training in the Public Works Department. And today we had a request by the library chair to review the allocation to the library. It is my advice that we council stick with the actual operations budget that is proposed tonight, but that make a commitment to the library board that in the next quarter we review the their financials and their secondary funding along with ours to see if there's some movement to bring that that amount up. But otherwise, I think it is it's a very good budget for these inflationary times. It's a balanced budget. There are no cuts to services. Even though, as I say, we're in an inflationary time, we did have to dig into some operational surplus funds, but we did not have to dig into reserves. So we're in fairly good stead. I really want to congratulate the staff for working through all the numbers. We've been working on this with the inside staff, outside staff for a couple of months now, and along with council and taking into consideration council's recommendations and aspirations for 2022. As noted, we do have $1 million capital budget. So there are a number of projects that most of them have been finalized, but a number of them will be finalized once the capital is approved. And we proceed to the province with our projects. They approve it, and then hopefully there is opportunity to have a very strong year for Cobalt and doing a number of things, right from paving to upgrade to the tech park and some upgrade to municipal buildings and some beautification for both the downtown and some removal of derelict buildings. So from a staff perspective, pretty darn proud to recommend the approval of the budget as presented.
Joe?
What about that laneway that we discussed this last meeting?
Yes, the issue of the laneway itself is I was hoping to have a actual estimate for the paving for tonight's review. There are still opportunities. I think we're hoping for funding. The actual, it's not a laneway. It's an extension of Laird. We're calling it an extension of Laird. Last year we put $10,300 worth of gravel, stripped away a rock. It's not paved, and as I mentioned, we're hoping since your request, Councillor Dubé, about this last one, we're hoping that there are opportunities in one of the funding sources, but we can't say NORDS itself is a funding system that deals with roads that are impacted by resource development. We're hoping we might be able to squeeze it in there, but at present, because it does not fit into any of the funding streams other than taxes, personal or property taxes to the municipality, staff wasn't recommended to, or we did not recommend going to the taxpayer for that individual project. So that we're still hoping that we might be able to squeeze that in if we can find the funding source for it. But otherwise, there are no funding bubbles for it right now as it stands today.
2 years, John, over 2 years. This makes absolutely no sense. And,
No, as I mentioned, there was $10,000 worth put in, not including labor, into that little section of roadway last year, and we're hoping that if we can find some paving dollars, if that's council's wish, to have this particular area paved over other areas in the municipality, then we will await direction from council.
definitely hope we find some and not pave more boulevards. Councilor Wilcox?
Thank you, Your Worship. 2 questions tonight. One with respect to our good old handrails in town. The council passed a motion to have done 2 years ago. We've been through 2 seasons, and the first season some partial amounts were painted. Nothing last year. What are the plans for this summer?
Hopefully we'll get some students on board this year and we can proceed with that project.
And if we don't get students, what happens?
We'll try and get our guys to do it whenever they get some time to do it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
They should have a little bit more free time.
Yes. Part of my concern is they are rusted and
Yeah.
people, big, small, short or tall, all have a hand, tend to actually put a hand on a handrail, oddly enough. And they are rusty, and if you get cut, and if it gets infected, we're kind of liable on that. We have to, and of course, curb appeal.
Yeah.
We want people to buy in town. We have to make the town worth living in. Look like it's worth
Absolutely, I
living in.
agree.
Second, we,
Go ahead.
thank you, the library. We have $30,000 allotted for the library. The request is $47,000. I checked with the chair of the library board today. She noted again, their budget, their board approved a budget that included an additional $17,852. And she notes that without it, there will have to be serious changes to the library, and certainly anything that they're doing currently will become very difficult to properly operate and staff. And it is a vital community service. My concern is if we tonight just say, well, it's $30,000 and maybe something more, then we're kind of backing into a decision to make some major changes to the way our library operates. And I'm not sure that's a fair and appropriate thing to do. This is a serious matter, and it shouldn't happen because of a budget scenario only. There should be some significant consultation with the library board before we take that step.
Perhaps if I could address that, Your Worship.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. First on the railings, we have budgeted for 4 students. One will be assigned to Tech Park, 2 to the Public Works, and 1 to Beautification Downtown, which our planning and budgeting was for, including painting the railings. So if we do not get the students, then that will free up the money that we'd have in our budget for the students that would go to, at least in part, to painting the railings. On the library, it's not a maybe look at the finances. My recommendation is council commit to, in the next quarter, look at the actual funding sources for the library, look at their financial statement, which is only draft now, and their ability to raise funds from places like the Legacy Fund. That has not come in this year to our knowledge. So there are a number of numbers that aren't there at the time of this budget. So And that's why if the amount of $17,000 were put back into the budget, let's say tonight, it would mean an additional 2% in taxes or further access into the operational surplus funds. Thank you.
Go ahead, Pat.
On the library, I'm not sure that all of you understand how they get their money from the funding sources. It's not going and asking them for X amount of dollars. These are funds that every year, the interest that's gained over the year is divided according to a formula. Like the Agnico Eagle Fund, they get, I believe, 40% out of it. So if we're in a good year where, there was lots of interest coming in all those funds, then the amount they get is higher. You get a bad year like the last one I faced in 2018 with the mining museum, and we only got our 10%, and we dropped over half in all the different funds that were from the Temiskaming Foundation. What we were given was less than half that year because that's all they had to distribute. So it's not a case that they can go to their funders and ask them for more. There's a set thing, you get this % of the interest from that fund. So that goes up and down every year. And that's one of the reasons why they do need a cushion to go forward. Because it's devastating when you get one of those bad years and, foundations and our whole business economy and everything goes up and down. Well, in good years, it's nice. In bad years, it's devastating to any group. So that's why they can't go and ask for more. When they have projects that they want to do, and this is all of our museums too, any of us that have been in that kind of thing. When you've got a project, yes, there are foundation funds that can be distributed for that. But generally, they want you to pay half of it. Well, the years when you may need to go to outside funding for it, it's because the amount you were given from the funds is so small you need it for the extra, but you don't have that extra 50% or so to be able to dedicate to it. So you want, you maybe need $800 for a project, but you got to come up with 400, but hey, the amount they allocated to you that year, in 2018, let's see, we lost $8,000 just at the mining museum, and that was only when we were allocated 10% and not 40%. So I can see how devastated the library was that year. So that's the way their fundings go. There's only so many places, but those main funds that support us that have been set up by Agnico and then other groups in town, you don't know from year to year.
That's the legacy fund.
Yeah.
I believe Councillor Ann said would.
Two things. I have a question about the tech park on the budget. What exactly does that encompass again? What's that project all about? I kind of missed something there.
Go ahead, John.
No, it's fine. I was just going to say that although the formal announcement has not come down, we've been told by the federal government that we do have funding for the tech park, which was a specific proposal that we put in almost last year at this time, which was a general upgrade to the park, street lighting down there, pathways, static and non-static exercise equipments, shading, concentrating on children's playground type thing. It's not a playground, but it has some unique plans to really have the tech park upgraded to a point where it's going to be very attractive, as opposed to right now. It is attractive with the splash pad, as you know, and we think there's a nice little project for that. here. But I'm sorry to just divert a little bit. I missed the main point of sort of being the bad guy here in so much as where staff is recommending that you go with a 3% tax increase. And the reason for that, again, is a lot of our fixed costs are exponentially going up. We're in inflationary times. There are a lot of new things on the board. So the recommendation is 3%. If council says tonight, well, we are going to proceed with restoring that 17,000 or whatever, it would go up to, I think, around 5.89%. Or the funds would be taken out of our accumulated surplus. And just to remind, whatever funds we have in our accumulated surplus, council has already passed the resolution, excuse me, to transfer those funds into reserves. So we had a good year last year, but if you talk to the province, we're a little bit low on reserves. So anytime you take operational funds, and we're forced to do it, some of it this year, and put it into the current year operations, that reduces the amount of money that goes into reserves. So as it stands, the way the budget is now, there will be money going over to reserves that puts the municipality in a better state. Sorry for going off to the tangent, but I thought it was important that council knows staff's recommendation on the amount. And we understand that it's nobody likes to see an increase in taxes, but realistically, when you're in a corporation that deals a service corporation, that there is a requirement to, if you continuously keep a low tax rate, eventually you'll run out of reserves.
Can I finish?
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Now, as far as the library goes, I get what you're saying, how the funding works. I knew how the fund, kind of suspected how the funding come in for them from the other entities. But there is a chance, probably a very good chance, because return on investments did go up last year as opposed to the year before, that they will get some more money. And I just feel that it's important that we don't strap our ratepayers, our residents, too much. Because, and I put it in an email today, we're trying to position Cobalt as a town that's going to grow, and we want to see some more commercial business come in. We keep increasing taxes at the rate we're going. We're going to be on par with our neighboring municipality, and we don't have the broad range of services that they offer. So instead of somebody coming here to set up anything commercial, they're going to go to the neighboring community. They're not going to come here, because we're getting very close to being on par with them now. And we don't have the same services. So I think we just got to be a little cautious in how we do it. And yeah, there's a bit of pain in it. But at the same time, how much pain do we want to cause our residents as well?
Okay.
No.
Yeah. Matthew?
Through your worship, Councillor Anderson, I appreciate that explanation of the volatility of the investments. That's important for everybody to know. But I've been, for the past 2 years, trying to get information from the library board as to the number of patrons from Coleman and why Coleman's payment is minute compared to what we're putting in here in our municipality. I don't know if to date we have those numbers, and I can check. John, have we received numbers from the library as to the Coleman patrons?
My understanding from our librarian a little while back, and then maybe a little foggy on this, that there was a number. I thought it was 42. I hope I'm correct in that. But I can tell you that the Coleman gets a grant from the province for library services, of which they turn over to the town of Cobalt, and I think they add in $500 a year. So that is the commitment that Coleman has for library services.
And that's part of the issue that I'm having with this. And I understand the buildings in town, and I understand that primarily used by residents of Cobalt. I mean, my family uses it quite often, and the programming is important. And I'm not taking away from that at all. But I'd hazard to green light the $17,000 tonight. I like looking at it next quarter, just to make sure that the other funding sources that they have, whether the funding's minute or not, comes in to try and take down that $17,000 ask. If we go to 6% on our taxes, that will put a lot of commercial properties on par with the Miskaming Shores. And that is something that we need to keep in mind as to the structure of our town moving forward, and also the understanding of how much those commercial properties contribute to the tax base in town. And if they start leaving, you're going to have a far greater problem than I think we're really paying attention to. We have a form in front of us right now that shows, a commercial assessment of $155,000 with a 3% tax increase contributes $5,337.50 to our tax base. What happens if we go on par with a community with more infrastructure, amenities, makes it easier to operate a business? What happens to those businesses that have chosen Cobalt to operate within? I will tell you, as a business person, it would be a very hard sell to keep me here, or any business for that matter, if the taxes were to exceed our neighboring communities. We have to keep that in mind, because it creates an even larger hole moving forward for this community that we have a hard time backfilling if we start losing assessments. Well, the $155,000 commercial assessment, for instance, of $5,000. I'm not against funding the library. I would just like to see a bit more information with regards to their financials, the return on investments, and the funding from other communities that utilize that facility within our town. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilor Wilcox.
I think Councilors Angela and Matt make very strong points. It's absolutely a significant concern. The other concern too is the library is one of the very few services we have left in our community if you want to keep residents living here. And what kind of balance are we going to put on that? If we are committed to reviewing it closely with the library and working with them, then I don't have a problem with proceeding tonight. But I would like council to guarantee that we are going to do what we can do with them to try and ensure that they can continue operating well. The budget they've presented is very, very close to every other budget they've done over the last few years. There were a couple of items in there that I think were covered when they made the presentation in February, and I'm not going to get into personnel and that sort of thing in an open meeting. I don't think that would be fair. But there is very little that has changed in the budget. Some minor increases, particularly for large print books. They are expensive and they are more and more in demand as our population ages. So there are some natural growth areas in the operations. On the other hand, it does a lot of good work with St. Pat's School and visits to the library and a lot of other things that are enriching on that aspect of life in our town. So I think we have to be very careful about the kind of choice we make and how we can help the library continue to be a significant part of our town, because we don't have a lot left to offer.
I think we're all on the same page when we talk about the reviewing it, as far as I'm concerned. In a couple of months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever, and doing what we can to help them. I don't see anybody opposed to doing that. So that's the plan we want to go along with, and that's the direction we can give staff. Go ahead, Angela.
Yeah, because further to Councillor Johnson's point, that if our tax rates go up and commercial starts to pull out of Cobalt, keep in mind that it's the residents that are going to be picking up that difference.
Absolutely.
So we really got to be very cognizant of that.
Yep. But like we also said, we have no idea what the legacy fund will be as of yet. It could be better. I'm sure it will be better than it has been the last couple of years. We don't know that for sure. But we will do what we
Invested
can,
in, George.
right?
Depends on what they're invested in.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Should have been oil.
Um,
Go ahead. Ange.
And are there not other funding opportunities that they can access?
I don't know a whole lot about it, but I think they're limited
They're limited.
to what they can.
Yeah, I've discussed that with the board, and it's operating funding that they need, and operating funding is very hard to come by. There's lots of money for buildings and books, and they've got a little model system that they're going to be doing 3D imaging with. Some nice things over there. You can get grants for that, but you can't get the grant to buy the plastics and make the thing work. That's where they have to find funds.
Okay, so you say they can get grants for books and stuff, so when we're saying their budget increase, part of it is because they're having to get more large print books in. Is that not fun, opportunities that they can go after to help supplement some of that?
Oh, and they do. They do. They hunt down almost everything you can see. I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is having funders available who want to look at that kind of a thing.
A lot of
The same
operational.
problem with neighboring municipalities, like Holman has been urging just what they are doing, and they have been asked on several occasions to consider increasing it, and they are happy with the level of support they're giving. And unfortunately, sometimes I think you just have to say, well, thank you for that level, and move on.
Okay. So we're all committed then to look at it on a quarterly basis and do what we can at that point in time. Okay, the next question then is what percentage of increase are we going to give staff direction? Go ahead.
Your worship, the handout that we have in front of us here, do we have that in a soft copy we can put up on the screen for people to see so they understand the math to this?
John, I think has it.
Right now, obviously in an election year, and we don't want people taking that 3% and weaponizing it without seeing actual figures.
Pardon?
You want me to email it to you? I can scan it from here and email it.
Okay, it'll take a couple seconds.
Yeah. It's just better for people to understand the
Oh, guaranteed,
implications, right?
definitely,
So,
yes. Yeah.
sorry, folks, I have paint and everything else on my hands. So it takes a minute. So I just sent it over.
Okay.
And I just want everybody to know that I circled 6% because of our discussion. It's not indicative of anything. It's just me jotting down notes as we discuss things.
There it is. No nasty little notes on there.
No.
I got you to it, man.
So are we at the top of the page there? All right, so the first chart is a 0% increase to the 2021 tax levy. So this would obviously be a 0% tax increase in the town of Cobalt based upon your assessment, which is $0. So you'd see your assessments on the left side, just gives you a general idea. 2021 taxes, 2022 taxes, and then you'll have a column with the difference for the following scenarios. In this case, because it's 0%, you'll have 0% or $0 difference between your tax levies year over year. We have 1.5% tax levy, and we'll just take a look. If you just want to scroll down just a bit, John. So residential assessment, we'll pick $102,000 for instance. So your 2021 taxes were $1,528.31. With a 1.5% increase, they'd be $1,500 or $1,548.89 for a difference on your yearly taxes of $20.58. So, and then we'll go down to the 3% just so. And what staff is recommending currently is a 3% tax increase. So again, we'll go to the $102,000 residential assessment. So that's $1,528.31. The difference, or the 2022 tax rate, would be $1,569.48 for a difference year over year of $41.17 total, broken up over your installments. So roughly, $10 an installment. And then the different scenarios are at the bottom of the page showing, again, percentage increases from 0.5% to 7%. And each increase of 0.5% equals an additional $3,094 to our tax base. Another thing that I'd like to point out, and we were discussing it earlier, if you just want to scroll up a bit, John. No, sorry, at the 3% if you don't mind. There we go. Oh, down just a bit more. There are very few commercial properties within the town of Cobalt. You can see what these commercial spaces are paying with regards to their taxes every year, and what the difference is for these commercial properties based upon a 3% increase. I just want to scroll over, John. So you'll see the significance of those commercial properties within our town. Okay, thank you.
Any more comments? So what are we recommending for staff? Proceed. You direct, go ahead, Joe.
I'd recommend the 1.5%.
I'm along the same lines as the 1.5%. Because I'd like to qualify that statement, if I could.
Yeah.
Because if we look at what our deferred items are for 2023, there's some big ticket items on there. So I think we need to keep in mind that we're probably going to be looking at another increase next year, and I'd like to try and keep that manageable as well. So kind of spread the pain out a little bit.
Okay. Go ahead, Pat.
I'm happy with this 3% because I know I've heard so many years from the government when they go through our stuff that our reserves are still low, and we are looking at some big ticket things next year, like fire truck and stuff like that. And we do need to keep those reserves up so that we can do it. We're looking at the overall health of the financial health of the town too.
Okay. So how are we going to, what do we?
Your worship.
Yeah.
Councilor
Oh, sorry, Doug.
Just a comment, I'm using Matthew's example of the 102,000. At the 1.5%, you're looking at $20.58 increase, $1.72 a month. You're looking at 3%, you're looking at $41 a year, $3.43 a month. That's 2 cans of big style corn a month.
Mhm.
Just to try and put things in focus on what we're talking about in actual dollar amounts, you know, it's significant, I think, to some people in our town. I know there are a lot of people with very small incomes, and every little penny counts. But nonetheless, the financial health of the community is important too. We have to have the ability to fund some things, and there will be some things breaking down and requiring replacement in the not too distant future. Certainly when we look at the fire department, we look at public works, there's some major ticket items there that are going to hit us. So I feel we have to go with 3%.
Okay, well, how are we going to, guess we put the we vote on the 3%, or how do we proceed, John, then, if that's the case?
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, definitely at this stage in the game, this is a 100% political decision. The staff have.
I agree. I just don't know that we're sort of caught in
Well, no, it's. I suppose if you want to go with a straw count before you have the vote, that's probably the one that will receive the most votes. So whichever one you want to proceed with is fine. If one gets turned down, defeated, then you're on to the resolution. So if you want staff to prepare 2 resolutions, one stating 1.5 and one stating 3, that's fine, and we just run the gambit.
I think that's the way we will proceed in.
If I could just go back a little bit. So if there's a resolution that goes forward for 3% and that gets approved, that's fine, or the 1.5, that's fine. The other resolution that is being discussed right now will have to have that blank filled in with whatever you folks decide right now.
Okay.
So it's the other resolution that is sort of deferred, that you're going to wait until you get the percentage, because that's the only blank in that the resolution that's being discussed.
Okay. Are we ready to vote on the motion then?
You get a recorder too, please?
Yep. Okay, be it resolved that we go for a 1.5% increase. Councillor Adsit.
For,
Councillor Anderson.
against,
Councillor Dubé. 4. Councillor Johnson. 4. Councillor Wilcox.
Against.
And myself, against. So we're still at an impasse. We're 3-3, so the motion is defeated. Okay. Be it resolved that we 3% increase. Councillor Adsit.
Against.
Councillor Anderson.
for,
Councillor Dubé.
Against?
Councillor Johnson.
Again,
Councillor Wilcox. And Mayor Offmer, 4. So this motion is also defeated.
It is.
So we're at a stalemate again.
And we are. I do have a coin. It has a head and it has a tail, and that's quite often a good way to decide between 2 things.
Well,
It is a good way.
is it? Go ahead.
I'm torn on this. We want to make sure that obviously reserves are very important. We want to make sure we can maintain those, and I get that. But we're on the tail end of a pandemic too.
Mhm.
CPP increase, I believe, was what, 1.2% total for anybody on that fixed pensionable income right now. 1.5 is the way I'm leaning, because I want to try and, however much it is, whether it's $40 or $20 a year, I still want to maintain, I want to soften the blow to people who are on those fixed incomes especially. That's my reasoning behind it. And that's obviously the way I voted. However, I get the importance of reserves. I just don't think at this time, coming out of that pandemic as we are, it's the time to hit with that 3% increase.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Excuse me, your worship, perhaps
Yeah.
another option, yes, perhaps another option is split the difference and vote on that. Or a toss.
Aye,
2%.
2%? 2.5?
I feel 2.25 coming on.
Yeah. Well, split the difference, I guess. I don't think this has ever happened, has it?
No. Well, no, that was something else.
Because we're still down one counselor.
Okay,
Can I say something before we?
yeah, you sure can.
I'd like to point out that at least we do have some reserves, and it's
Yeah.
not like we're dipping into our reserves. We're just dipping into a surplus.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
means our reserves aren't gonna be built up as much.
Mhm.
When we did the budget 2 years ago, we had 0 reserves. So,
Absolutely, I agree. Okay, be it resolved that 2.25 increase. Counselor Adshead.
no, I'm sorry, I'm against.
Yes,
It's
Counselor,
still above the CPP increase.
Counselor Anderson,
I'll go for it.
Counselor Dubé. Yeah. 4. Counselor Johnson. 4. Counselor Wilcox.
4.
And Mayor Othmer, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 1. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. So 2.25. I'll read the second portion of this again. Whereas after review, council approved the 2022 budget in the amount of $4,041,818 with the municipal tax levy increase of 2.25%, and further that staff be directed to prepare necessary bylaws. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. That's the first I've seen that. 4.2, collective agreement between the town of Cobalt and QP Local 127. Be it resolved that council accept the minutes of settlement signed between the corporation of the town of Cobalt and QP Local 127 and direct staff to sign the collective agreement for the term July the 1st, 2021 to June the 30th, 2024. A mover and a seconder, please. Pat and Joe. Discussion. Matthew, you want to carry us through this?
I'm just going to briefly go through the memorandum. I can just go with that, correct, Peter? Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So we had a very positive negotiation process with our unionized workforce. And we had representation from the office staff as well as Public Works, which was great. And we were able to hammer out a CBA rather quickly and efficiently. So that was definitely a positive. Did we want to touch on the general wage increase and the whole deal, or do we?
You can if you like, I guess, as long as.
Okay, so within the memorandum of settlement, I'm just going to read some of the points of the memorandum of settlement here. So the term July 1st, 2021 till June 30th, 2023, I believe.
Yeah, Your Worship, it has been amended to 2024.
2024?
Yes.
Thank you. And then we have a general wage increase in there of 35 cents each year, effective July 1st, 2021, which will be paid retroactively July 1st, 2022, and July 1st, 2023. Again, a very positive union negotiation, CBA negotiation. One of the best that I've been part of, and I've done quite a few of these during my career. I'd like to thank the representatives of the union for coming to the table, and I'd like to also thank the management team that I was able to negotiate alongside. And I believe that moving forward, this provides us with a collective bargaining agreement that's beneficial for both the union as well as the corporation or the town of Cobalt in this case.
And Angela, do you have anything to add to, since you
It
run
was
it?
a very positive negotiation. It was done very quickly. It was done very logically. It was very nice, very nicely done and very quickly done.
Anybody else have anything to add? Go ahead, Doug.
Well, firstly, I want to thank our negotiating team for doing a really good job. I'd like to thank our public works and our office staff for meeting us
Absolutely.
in a positive way. I'm delighted that it came to conclusion so easily, if that's the right word. On another note, and understanding that unions and corporations often just show what the changes to the previous collective agreement were going to be. And I think that's great. But after our meeting on Tuesday, our closed session, I went home and I hauled out all of my stuff to have a look, see what it was going to read like and look like, until I realized that we'd left all of the paperwork here because it was given in a closed meeting and it was taken back in a closed meeting. And that always sensitizes me to the thought of doing my due diligence and making sure that with the changes that are proposed, the contract still reads well and properly and still is intended what we want it to be. So I would like to suggest that in future years, when we have done this, that each of us get a preliminary draft copy of the collective agreement in its entirety, so we can read it through and make sure that everything still seems to work, coalesce, and go where we wanted it to go. Anytime we're negotiating a contract, and this is a particularly major contract, I think we really have to take our time to look at the final effort and make sure it's what we want.
Okay, with that being said, I also want to thank everyone involved, the staff, the council, workforce. Great job. It was very well done. So on that note, all in favor of ratifying the contract? Carried. Thank you very much. And a great job. Okay, item 5, adjournment. Be it resolved that the special meeting of council be adjourned at 7:18.
Yes, please.
Yes. Moved by Doug and seconded by Pat. All in favor?
It's my favorite motion.
Thank you very much all.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you.